I saw The TV Glow is the latest film from director Jane Schoenbrun, and it has instantly become one of my favorites of the year. The brief premise revolves around two teenagers played by Justice Smith and Bridget Lundy Payne in the 90s who connect over a shared interest and obsession of a late-night TV series. And of course, stuff happens to cause conflict that would lead into spoilers, which I don't want to get into, but the general themes revolve around identity and nostalgia in the meshing between two genres of coming-of-age and horror. And what makes this film so great to me is it has this ability to be both a direct message to a specific group of people while also still applying to a general audience. An obvious read of this film would be a trans allegory showcasing what someone who identifies as such may feel at any given time. But this film doesn't just limit itself to that unique experience, it instead uses it both to make that specific group of people feel seen and also introduce what that feeling is to a larger audience who may not have a direct personal connection to the subject matter. And this is what great films have the ability to do. For the duration of the runtime, you have the opportunity to have a small glimpse of what it may be like to have the emotions of someone else. And so what I obviously connected most with this was the media nostalgia side of it, specifically coming from the 90s. I am obviously someone who is obsessed with film and art in general, and I am often at a loss for words in describing the value it has in my life. It's this odd feeling to be so attached to something that can often feel more real than even life itself, and this film portrays that feeling perfectly. I think the 90s is such a great time to place this in as the last moments in time before the internet took over our culture. There's something so unique about having to put in the work to actively seek out the stuff you were into, and it was rare when you could find someone who shared that with you. The film eventually takes us through multiple decades spending time with these characters, brilliantly illustrating the passing of time through upgrading to a flat screen TV to a boxy tube television, and also using streaming services rather than cable TV. It serves as a great representation as how our technology can advance, our problems pretty much remain the same no matter how we are viewing them. We're still just lonely people now as adults with jobs and better technology to watch the stuff we're into. There's this moment when our protagonist revisits the TV series years later on a streaming service and finds it to be much more cheesy and almost embarrassing to admit that he liked it at one point. And I think there could be two different readings on this scene and what the film is trying to communicate. The obvious one is how we remember these nostalgic objects of our adolescence with rose-colored glasses holding up to a standard that they'll never be able to meet upon revisit. But I think there's also a deeper meaning in the film portraying it this way, because I think in this moment and throughout the entire film, we are watching someone suppressing his passion for something he once loved, almost as a defense mechanism, pretending like he is too mature for it now. There's something very vulnerable about growing up and admitting that you are still into the things you were back then, and we would probably feel a lot less internal emotional buildup if we could just openly love our passions from the start. Clearly this film is making that analogy for what trans people may feel, but again, that's why I think this film is so brilliant, because it has that message, but also has something for people who might not directly connect to that situation. Even if that vulnerability is something as shallow as admitting you like a TV series. This film also really walks this line of using reality in dreamlike sequences, and there are many moments within this film where you aren't quite sure whether or not you can trust what is happening on screen. Characters will stop abruptly to break the fourth wall. We have these music video-like moments where the lyrics are clearly describing the plot and themes and what is happening, and there's plenty of moments where we completely alter history or certain scenes. It gives a lot of work to the audience to cipher through their own personal interpretation of these scenes, which may isolate some audiences from getting a full enjoyment of it, but in that way, I think it's one of the bravest things you can do as a filmmaker, to really leave it up to the audience to kind of find the takeaways. All of these things are surrounded by a great vibe full of fun colors and a great use of screens, mostly television, that really utilize unique camera angles and character blocking. The soundtrack is also amazing, with so many songs that have already been on repeat for me. I was very surprised when Phoebe Bridgers appeared in a cameo, but even more shocked when Fred Durst kept showing up. It just feels especially inspired for the lead singer of Limp Bizkit to be this cold-hearted father figure that keeps telling his son that the things that he likes are too girly. But all of the music references really add to the overall experience of what they're trying to do here, including a personal favorite of mine, a cover of Tonight Tonight by the Smashing Pumpkins. Basically, I love this film. It's not going to be for everyone, and I think it will be polarizing either from the very pointed messaging or just the style of filmmaking itself, which doesn't always land for a general audience. But it's been a minute since I've seen a movie do something so brave and make me feel so many emotions because of that. So for those reasons, I love this film, but I would love to hear your thoughts. So please comment below, let me know what you think of this film, and I will see you next time.